It was the middle of a war. London skies weren't lit by stars anymore, only by fire and falling bombs. Four siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy, huddled together in a cramped shelter, trying to stay brave while the world outside fell apart. The next morning, their mother made a heartbreaking decision. It was time to send them somewhere safe. So with name tags pinned to their coats and tiny suitcases in hand, the four boarded a train that would take them far from the noise and straight into the beginning of an extraordinary adventure. Hours later, the train pulled into a small station surrounded by rolling green hills. Waiting for them was a stern woman who barely smiled. She took them to a huge old house, the kind of place where every floor creaked and every room smelled of dust and secrets. The house belonged to an elderly professor who mostly kept to himself. He didn't mind having them there, as long as they didn't break anything. And in a house that big, finding trouble wouldn't be hard. At first, life was quiet, too quiet. So one rainy afternoon, when the boredom hit its peak, they decided to play hide and seek. That's when everything changed. While searching for a hiding spot, the youngest, Lucy, stumbled into a room she hadn't seen before. It was empty, except for one old wardrobe tucked in the corner. She pulled the door open, stepped inside, and pushed her way past the hanging coats. But instead of hitting the wooden back, she kept walking and walking. Her hand reached out and touched snow. When Lucy looked around, she wasn't in a room anymore. She was standing in a forest, blanketed in white, her breath fogging in the air. It was silent, cold, and impossibly real. Lucy wasn't alone for long. Through the trees came a figure, part man, part goat, carrying an umbrella and several packages. He introduced himself as a faun and invited her to his little home for tea. Inside, the fire crackled and the air smelled like toast and honey. But after a while, his smile began to fade. He confessed that he wasn't supposed to be kind to her at all, because a powerful ruler had cursed this land, turning it into a place where it was always winter, but never Christmas. Yet, he couldn't bring himself to betray her. So, with tears in his eyes, he told Lucy to run, and helped her find her way back. When Lucy tumbled out of the wardrobe, only seconds had passed in her own world. Excited, she told her siblings everything: the snow, the forest, the faun, the curse. But to them, it sounded like a child's imagination. The wardrobe was checked, and sure enough, it had a wooden back. No snow, no forest, nothing. Everyone laughed, everyone except Lucy, who knew what she had seen. A few days later, one of the others, Edmund, followed her into the wardrobe, determined to prove her wrong. But he found himself in that same frozen world, and unlike Lucy, he met someone else entirely. A tall, beautiful woman in a sleigh pulled by white deer. She seemed kind at first. She offered him sweets that melted in his mouth and promised him greatness. "If you bring your brother and sisters to me," she said, "I'll make you a ruler beside me." Tempted by power and pride, Edmund agreed, without understanding who she really was. Later, when all four siblings accidentally stumbled into the wardrobe together, Lucy's story finally made sense. They saw the snow. They felt the cold air. But when they reached the faun's house, it was empty, smashed to pieces. A sign on the wall accused him of helping a human. That's when they met a pair of talking animals. Two friendly beavers who explained everything. The woman Edmund met? She wasn't a queen at all. She was a witch who had frozen their world in endless winter. And there was someone who could stop her. The true king, a great lion, was returning. The beavers told the children of an ancient prophecy. When two sons of Adam and two daughters of Eve sit on the thrones of Narnia, the witch's reign would end. That meant them. As they prepared to meet the lion, Edmund slipped away. He thought he was going to claim his reward, but instead, he walked straight into the witch's icy trap. When she realized he hadn't brought the others, her smile vanished. She locked him in her dungeon and left him in the cold. Meanwhile, the rest of the group began their journey across melting snow, a sign that the lion's power was returning. Eventually, they reached a great camp where the lion waited for them. He was massive, but his eyes were kind. He welcomed them, even after hearing of Edmund's betrayal. Then, when the witch's wolves attacked, Peter fought bravely, protecting his sisters. It was his first battle, and his first victory. Not long after, Edmund was rescued. The lion spoke to him privately, and when they returned, he was forgiven. No one mentioned his mistakes again. But the witch wasn't finished. She arrived at the lion's camp and demanded that Edmund be handed over, claiming that betrayal must be paid with blood. That night, while everyone slept, the lion slipped away to meet her. He offered himself instead. On a stone altar, the witch struck him down. The land fell silent. The next morning, only two small figures remained by his side. The girls who wept for the friend who had given his life to save their brother. But as the sun rose, something miraculous happened. The stone altar cracked in two, and the lion stood alive once more. He explained that when an innocent willingly gives his life for a traitor, death itself begins to work backwards. With new strength, he led the girls to the witch's fortress, freeing every creature she had turned to stone. On the battlefield, Peter led the charge against the witch's army. The fighting was fierce, and just when all seemed lost, the lion arrived, roaring across the plain. The witch fell, her army scattered, and spring finally returned to the land. The four siblings were crowned as the rulers of this new world. Peter the Magnificent, Susan the Gentle, Edmund the Just, and Lucy the Brave. Years later, they stumbled back through the wardrobe and found themselves home again, as children. No time lost, no one believing what they'd seen. But they knew. They knew that beyond the door, a whole other world waited, one that would always be part of them. Sometimes, the biggest adventures start with a simple step, through a door into the unknown. And if you ever find one that feels just a little too ordinary, maybe, just maybe, it's not an ordinary door at all. Thanks a lot for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss what's coming next. We've got plenty more great content on the way.